Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for watching the Recovery Clinic. My name is Jimmy McGill, and I am a person in long-term recovery from addiction. And what that means is that despite a lifetime of incarceration and drug use, addiction does not have to be a death sentence. There is hope, there is a way out. And so it's going to be an exciting show today. So I'm going to ask anybody watching to share this video, tag everybody you know who has successfully re-entered society, who is struggling re-entering society, all people on probation and parole. And if you're in Arkansas, you probably know somebody on probation or parole. And so you definitely know somebody who's struggling with addiction. And so this is going to be a really great show. As the state recovery manager, I get to see a lot of really cool situations that bring me hope and inspire other people. And this is one. You guys may not know Carrie Williams, but I do. She is the Assistant Director for ReEntry for the Division of Community Corrections at Arkansas Department of Corrections. Yes, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. That's almost like a whole alphabet.
That's a lot.
And so, as a person who successfully re-entered society myself, I remember meeting Carrie in my career while I was actively on parole. And I remember that you did not treat me different, right? Like you were very nice, and I never forgot that. And even though there were times that I would want to fight for things that made more sense to me, and even when regulations didn't, you would just be like, Jimmy, I see your point, but it is what it is. And so thank you for always being a friend to me in my early recovery and in my early transition from incarceration to society.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so, how are you?
I'm good.
You good?
I'm excited to be here.
You excited? This is like
nervous, excited.
Did you?
But yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We never saw this situation coming, did we?
We did not. We did not. I got the invitation, and I was like, oh, sure, I can do this. And I'm like, the closer it got, the more I got nervous. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
I love.
It's my passion. So.
I love seeing the people's face. Like, they're a little nervous before we get here, and then you walk into the KRK building, and you start seeing all the news stuff, and you're like, oh, this is a little bit more than I thought it was. And so, well, what's going on with Carrie? Tell me a little bit about you. What is your daily job as the Assistant Director of ReEntry look like?
Well, my team and I are responsible for recognizing barriers that individuals face, whether they're coming out of incarceration or they're put on probation, and coming up with solutions for those.
Right.
I have a team of 7 in the central office. I have 12 reentry officers in the field. They work in each area, and their goal is to make those community contacts, build those resources so they can provide it to the officers for individuals to get attached to services in the community. So we do that every day.
Yeah.
We try to think of ways to make things better. We try to be more creative in how we display what we do for the solutions, because we never really want to draw attention to an individual group of people, but we want to make it accessible to anyone.
So I saw a little bit of your creativity the other day when we're actually, and we'll get into this in a second. You guys don't let me forget, but this is actually, we're coming up on re-entry week.
Yes, we are.
And
very excited.
Ashley and I were dying laughing. We were like, you've got all these parole officers and ACC staff, and they're dancing around, and it was just really cool. And so we'll talk more about that in a second, but how does one find themselves in the position that Carrie Williams is in as the assistant director? How did that happen?
Well, that's kind of a, I'm not sure, happened. I'll tell you a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
I went to Atkins High School. My senior was a student, didn't miss much. Not straight A's, but pretty close.
Okay.
I hit a little speed bump.
I made straight D's, so.
Well, that's good. My only one, and I know the people watching will find this hard to believe if they know me, but the only problem I really had in school was talking. And I think I wrote more sentences for talking in class without raising my hand than I did anything else. So yeah, there was my.
Carrie Williams had a rebellious side?
I did.
Okay.
I had a little speed bump the summer before my senior year.
Okay.
I got pregnant. I finished most of my senior year. I dropped out after I gave birth to a little baby boy.
Okay.
35 years ago. I'll tell you my age. I got married, moved away, and decided I was going to come back because married life at the time wasn't for me. I couldn't figure it out, so I was 18 years old, single mom, moved back in with my parents. They took care of my son while I worked. I worked at Tyson. I worked at Atkins Pickle Plant, if anybody remembers that.
Okay.
Aging myself some more that's the way it is. But I studied during that year, and I earned my GED. And I think I was the last group to take the GED before they added the essay. You had to write an essay, so I was worried about that. I screamed in right on the end before they added that to it.
I'm gonna kind of look at that real quick, because if you're watching, you may not see that side of a state official, right? Like when I look at you, I never once in a million years, and you guys don't pass over that lightly, right? To get pregnant in your senior year of high school, drop out, become a single mom, like that's a lot, Carrie.
It's very scary.
And so you go from a high school dropout who has a child to college degrees and becoming the assistant director for reentry for the Arkansas Department of Corrections.
I'm just as shocked as you are every day. I have
I
to
bet.
thank God because he stayed right with me the whole way.
Yeah, that's huge.
But after I got my GED, probably about a year, I was given an opportunity through Arkansas Rehab Services because
Okay.
I was diagnosed as a child with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. So Rehab Services, I could test to go to college, and of course when I was in school, you know, college was for the rich and famous, and that wasn't going to be me.
Yeah.
I got the opportunity, so I did all the testing. I think I did the MMPI 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Still passed. They let me in. I did 2 summer semesters, and then I had an opportunity to go to work. So I dropped out of college. Another speed bump.
Yeah, so you got a thing about dropping out.
Well,
Okay.
except for my career, I haven't dropped out of that yet.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I've stayed focused on that. But yes, another speed bump there. I thought I had an opportunity as a single mom to make more money, so I was going to go to work. Went back to work. Arkansas Rehab reached out to me about a year and a half later and said, "We're going to close your case if you don't want to go back to school." I said, "Oh, wait, this is not God giving me another opportunity." So
Yeah,
I
he
went
does
back,
that.
I went back to school, studied in rehab science, had an opportunity to do an internship with Department of Community Punishment at the time.
Yeah.
So I took the internship and I started work actually for the agency 1 week before I graduated Arkansas Tech in 1994.
Yeah. So when it was DCP, that's when they were wearing the yellow jumpsuits, right?
Yes, they still wear yellow jumpsuits.
So I remember that because I was across the way in the big jumpsuit, like I want to be one of the little guys in the. Yeah, but that's another story for another
I
time.
wanted to be a brown suit.
Yeah,
That's what
I wanted some freedom. I never really got the chances that you guys give a lot of people today, and so that's amazing. And I'm sure your leadership probably played a big role in those changes because when I was doing time, there was no reentry. Like at best, you could look up and go into pre-release 30 days before you got released. And pre-release, it sounded good, and it was a privileged barracks, right? Like you wanted to be in there because you knew there was no trouble going to be in there. But it was just basically a couple of inmates that had press whites on and would do groups once a day. And so that was preparing you for release. But what you guys do, that's amazing. So the reentry rally that you've actually got coming up, there's some Facebook events circling around, and so I see this lady, and if I can remember, well, I probably won't pull it up while we're on the phone, but she said reentry saved her life and changed her future. That's on the comments right now, and so before we leave, I want to show you her. You probably know her. Yeah, and so you guys really are changing the entire trajectory for Arkansas. People are successfully re-entering society. Far bigger number today than it was 20 years ago.
Absolutely. We've come much further than when I started my career with the agency. Of course, I started as an admin for 5 years, and then over the last 27 years, I've just kind of promoted up. This is one position I never really thought I'd have because I was always like, I would not work in central office, suits and ties, I can't do it, country girl. But when I got the opportunity, the chief deputy at the time gave me an opportunity. I saw something in me.
Yeah.
How much passion I had about not labeling people and trying to take the stigma away from things. I got put on a couple committees in 2013, which led to some legislation that passed,
Yeah.
Act 1190, and that kind of opened.
Well, what is 1190?
It kind of set the pathway for looking at the criminal justice system as a whole and trying to get state agencies out of their silos, if you will, to try to get us. We were all working with the same population, whether you be an inmate or you be on probation or parole or just me. You know, we were all agencies trying to work separately and still accomplish the same goal. And we seen it wasn't working. The governor seen it wasn't working.
Right.
So 1190 legislation was passed, and there was 21 committees put together to address a barrier and come up with a solution.
21 different committees?
Yes.
And what was the barrier?
There were several. The biggest barriers was education, transportation, employment, childcare.
Yeah.
It was a plethora of barriers
I
that
get it.
everybody faces. I mean, we face it every day as well, but you take letters away from your name, put numbers behind your name, then it's even worse. It's harder to navigate the system. So in 2013, we started as an agency under the governor's directive to make a difference in Arkansas.
Yeah.
We got to be, our numbers are very high for incarceration, so we wanted to
what
turn
is
it around.
Do you know right off your hand what the recidivism rate actually is?
The last recidivism rate we had that was posted in 15 was 56%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's high. So at least half of the individuals that are released from ADC, ACC, within 3 years will return to incarceration, whether it be on a technical violation, a new arrest, new felony, or just kind of time out.
Yeah, you guys need some peer support. Peers, SAMHSA says that peer recovery is one of the most effective ways to combat recidivating people.
I truly believe that.
And it was not someone that at the time when I found recovery and made a decision that, okay, I need to change, it was not the people that could get in the facility I was at that carried me that message. The person that carried me the message, these people had long hair, raggedy clothes, and tattoos, and were not allowed in the facility because of their backgrounds. But that was the person I identified with. That was the person I knew was authentic, and there was no fizzling of the faith right there. I knew that was real. If he could do it, I can do it. And so that seed was planted. And so the barriers that you're talking about, coming home with no ID, the immediate needs assessment, that's what peer support specialists, they specialize in that. They transport someone from the sober living houses to court to DHS SNAP benefits. That's what we do. And so I just see a big opportunity, but I'm not trying to sell you nothing. No. It's something we can talk about later, maybe.
Well, we're working toward that. For a long time, I think we were under the impression that you don't have to have been there, done that to work. But for some individuals, it works that way. It works better for someone who has been in the weeds with them, been where they've came from. And, we've come a long way in accepting that as well.
Yeah.
I maybe not have walked in the shoes as far as incarceration, except that I had another little speed bump when I was 19 and got a DWI.
What?
And I thought my life was over.
Okay.
That was another reason why I said, look, I'm a single mom. I have got to get it together. So
college.
that was when I went back to college.
Yeah, I bet.
Shortly after that and finished it. But, yeah, so I've had several speed bumps, and I think it's more about having the passion not to judge an individual, because you can do this job, and even though my past is not the same as your past, it is a history.
You do have one.
But to have, but to have, just to love an individual where they're at right now and to help them connected to services, because I would want someone to help me.
Absolutely.
I would want someone to help my child, and somebody did. I've had chances all along my career when someone has seen something in me and given me an opportunity, so I have to repay that. I have to give back
that's freaking amazing, Carrie. And so, speaking to what you just said, when you go, you are uniquely qualified to reach a specific population that a vast majority of women cannot reach. You are specifically carved out of God's creation to reach teenage mothers who think it's over. You are qualified to give them hope, and no other woman other than a high school dropout that got pregnant in high school and went on to carve out a successful, productive life can instill that hope. They will take your story and it will be the gasoline to the fire for their future. That's peer support.
That would be good. I
Yeah.
never looked at it as a story, but
Oh, it's a story.
First time I talked about it to the women in McPherson, it was a story.
They lost
and
it.
it was mine.
They
yeah.
cried, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah,
and they had
that's
me
c-
crying. So, but that's
Yeah,
okay. I'm not
Why
ashamed
does
of
crying
it. I'm
work
very
that
proud of
way?
it. I don't know.
You start right now.
kinda
I'm
like
going to do it if you do it.
It's kind of like yawning. When somebody yawns, you just got to go right back.
Right.
But
Okay. So what other legislation have you guys?
Well, from 1190 and the 21 committees that put together and submitted this, Act 895 was the biggest criminal justice reform legislation that we've had in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Prior to my career, I wouldn't know, but that's the biggest one since my career. It changed the way we do things. It looked at an individual coming out of incarceration and started to identify what do they need to go home, and identification was one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
They were not being released with an ID. They were just shredded. So they were coming out basically with no Social Security card, no birth certificate. If they didn't have it when they went in, they didn't have it when they came out.
Yeah.
So 895 at least allowed the agency, if they couldn't get a driver's license, at least allowed our agency to prepare them with an ID card.
Yeah.
If they had ever had anything in Arkansas, we could at least get them an ID. Well, that would get the ball rolling when they got out to help them toward getting services, applying
That's
for a Social
huge.
Security card, or getting
Yeah.
a driver's license. Yes, that's huge. Act 895 also paved the way for Act 146 of 2015, which I think is kind of unique to Arkansas. We have 7 reentry facilities.
7 where are they at?
There's located various locations. We have Jonesboro, Little Rock, Pine Bluff, Malvern, Flippin, El Dorado.
Okay.
I think that's where. Oh,
So
yes,
you
that's
guys
it. We
are
have 7.
literally strategically scattered.
We are scattered. We have 22 transitional houses as well.
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
but the reentry facilities, basically, the legislation gave us permission to take individuals out of ADC, the high-risk population, the moderate to high-risk population, up to 18 months before they would ever make a transfer date to parole. So we screen the individuals, we look at their we basically meet them on a piece of paper is what it is. There's a process we put them through, and we give them an interview, and basically everybody that has accepted what they've done and is sincere about their own recovery, we put them in the facility.
That's
It's,
good, man.
Yeah. So
Man, that's good.
That is huge for the
So
state of Arkansas.
what kind of numbers are we looking at for the reentry?
We have 240 licensed beds. When the act first came out, when we were first given the permission to do that, we had 500
Okay.
beds that we could license. Well, we found that, with competing with other programs within ADC and the ability to screen them out, we kind of felt like we kind of found out we had trouble filling that. Our ultimate goal was to put at least 1,200 people a year through a reentry facility. But that hasn't happened yet, but that's okay. Since we started with our first house in 15, we've graduated over 2,000 individuals.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we
2,000.
don't have a true recidivism for that population because there's not really a cohort to put it with.
Yeah.
To
But do
tell
we got
you
a success
exactly
rate? How many have, went on to become and maintain that acceptable, productive role in society? Do we have that?
That's what we don't have the numbers in those,
Yeah.
but I do tell you we have had some amazing stories.
I bet.
Some amazing lives changed. Individuals, they have their kids back. They have bought their first car legally.
It's a
They
good
received
feeling.
the first paycheck legally. Some people 30 years old and they've never got a legal paycheck. So we've
Yeah.
got tons and tons of pictures of individuals just getting a Social Security card when they didn't even know how to get one.
Yeah, that's
So
huge.
it is amazing.
That is huge.
And it has really changed the way for a lot of people and made a difference versus a gate check and a bus ticket from the prison system. Because
Yeah.
if you didn't have anybody there to pick you up and you had been out of country, even fighting in the military, and no one was there waiting on you at the airport after you'd been gone, you would kind of feel like you were on an island by yourself. So that's kind of how
Yeah.
we think about people coming out of ADC who don't have somebody there. So if we can take them out, meet them at the door, pick them up, put them in a reentry facility, 6 months, and transition them home, then that's what we're going to do. We would love to eventually see everybody coming out of corrections that qualifies go
reentry.
through a reentry program.
Yeah, it would have helped me tremendously. And speaking from experience, I remember everything you just said. I remember the day, if you could have saw me the day I got my first vehicle assessed, you would have thought I won $1 million lottery. Like I go to a 12-step meeting and I'm in there like, I did it by myself. You don't understand. I went to the DMV and I'm waving these papers around and people are like, boy, you need to sit down. People been doing that all their life, but I'm like, not me.
I know.
It was a huge deal to me. And I bought my car from another person in recovery who sold it to me for a little or nothing, and I bought it with my student loan money. And so, but all that, like I remember all that, those small moments of success and goals being achieved, right? Like I would set these baby goals.
Exactly.
And I would achieve them. And if you would have told me 6 years ago that when I was coming out of prison that I would be the first parolee in the state to that the governor would change state laws to hire me, I would have thought you needed recovery, right? Like, but it has, and it's because of people like you, and because of our governor and just the state leadership that we have, and they're changing these laws, and they are moving in legislation for you guys to meet you where you're at and address these needs. It's just really amazing to watch Arkansas show out.
It is. It has been, yes. I have an amazing team that works with me. It's not just me.
You want to give them a shout out?
Young and creative. Hey, ReEntry.
Go RE. I ain't going to do it, but I know what it stands for. And if you come to ReEntry rallies next week, you'll know what it stands for.
That's right. That's right. You can make your own acronym, but we've got several words behind it. So, But yes, I have an amazing team that has the same passion for seeing people successful. And you mentioned baby goals. That's the biggest thing. Everything that I accomplished, even in my young life, before I got to this point, was a small goal that I was excited about. And you were talking about going to the DMV. When I had to get my driver's license renewed and you had to have that federal stamp on there, well, because I hadn't had a previous name other than my birth name, I had to go to get me a copy of my birth certificate. I had to order that and wait and pay for that. I mean, I went to the DMV, I think, 4 times.
Yeah.
So I understand what it feels like to not be able to just walk in the door and someone be able to assist you.
Yeah.
And say, well, you've got to come back. Well, you've got to come back. Well, most of the people that we have to borrow a ride and they can't come back, so they struggle with that.
Yeah.
And that is some of the things that we try to identify and personalize so we can find an effort to change that.
Do you guys give them a bus pass? Is it from like when they re-enter society, or they
from ADC?
From
if
ADC.
they do not have transportation, they do get a bus ticket.
Well, that was another big barrier when I came home. I didn't have transportation, and so I didn't have those. So see, all these gaps in the services when I've re-entered society, it was very hard. But and a lot of people probably failed because of those. Back then, failed because of the barriers that we would encounter. But you guys have really done a great job removing them.
Well, we work on it every day, and it still surprises me that when we meet someone who's been in recovery or they've been incarcerated, they give us another barrier. And we didn't realize, one of my teammates actually came up with this, that we ourselves as parole officers can be a barrier to someone's success. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that we teach in the academy. Do not be a barrier to your individuals coming to see you. Do not be a barrier to them being successful.
Yeah.
I always wanted, when I was an officer, I always wanted my individuals to do better than I did, to
Yeah.
be bigger than I was. And I'd tell them at intake, one of your goals should be to put me out of a job. And if you can do that, then I've done my job very well.
That's good.
If you
That's
can
a
shut
good
down a
mindset.
prison, then then I've accomplished it. So I asked them to set that goal for that.
We got somebody here. Polly said, "Are you two going to be at the rallies next week?"
Yes.
I'm going to follow Carrie Williams around all week next week.
That's right. We're
I'm
going to
going
have
to follow
an
you
exciting
around.
week.
I just decided I'm going to clear my schedule. I'm following Carrie. That's
It'll
good
be
stuff.
exciting all over the state, yeah.
Okay, what else we got? What other kind of legislation we have?
Well, of course, besides employment in the state of Arkansas, and we have had amazing community support. We have been working in several communities. We did ReEntry on the Road. We started that before COVID hit, and it was going into these communities, taking it group of my staff and just educating anybody that wanted to listen about what we do as an agency. We are not just an agency that incarcerates people.
Right.
We do try to prepare them to go home. Are we successful at that? No, but we're also working to change inside to outside. With ADC, working on different programming, different tracks, so that they can come out with a little bit more prepared to go home. But driver's license, identification cards, we've had a couple pieces of legislation passed. The most recent was Act 69. It was passed in 2019, and it actually allows an individual to have a driver's license at the most. That would be the ultimate, is to leave with a driver's license. But it gives them an opportunity to work to get those reinstatement fees waived.
Yeah.
And then if at the very least they'd come out with an ID, and that's probably only because maybe they have never had anything in Arkansas, they're from another state, they just committed their crime here. But we can also now give them a restricted driving permit if they qualify for anything other than a driving offense or child support. So they can at least go home with a restricted permit to drive to the parole office, to their meetings, to child things if they have kids in school that they can go to events and so on, and meetings, recovery groups, so on and so forth. So that was huge. We really celebrated that when we got that legislation passed.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's made a huge difference. And that's one of the big things we see from our facilities, from our transitional houses, is the guys that get a driver's license that look at what I've done. I've never had a legal driver's license.
Yeah,
they'll take the
big,
test and they'll call because they're still considered an inmate in the reentry facility program because they haven't made parole.
Yeah.
So they call and say, "Can you let us drive a car so we can get our driver's license?" Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Okay, listen, I want to dive into this before we get on to the rest of our list. Make sure that we have time while we've got good viewership. You know what I mean? Like, this is DOC reentry kickoff rally. Tell me about it. Talk to me about this rally. It sounds like it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a pep rally. It is. I don't want to say too much because I would like everybody to come and hang out with us from 10 to 2 on Monday the 26th.
Screenshot that.
This will be our 4th reentry rally.
Okay.
We're going to do it a little different. It is going to be a little loud and proud. You may feel like you've been in a church service when you leave, but
like
you're
a
going to
foot
want to
stomping.
It's a foot stomping.
Yeah, that's the kind of church.
Arm-raising kind of.
Yeah, where they run down the aisle. To, woo! Yeah,
That's it. We have, yes, we are very excited about it. It'll be from 10 to 2. We will have food trucks on site from 11:30 to 12:30 for lunch, because we're going to have a little pregame game show host during the lunch hour. So we're going to try to make it as much involvement from the attendees as we can. So we're hoping this is our biggest and best rally yet. As a department whole, since the transformation, we're actually kind of getting to do it together as 2 divisions. So we're very excited about to kick it off that week.
It's going to be a blast too. And so Monday, is this going to be at this location at Faith Baptist Church, 5600 Camp Robinson Road, North Little Rock, 10 to 2 Monday. Now, is this going to be going on there all week, or?
No, that's just the kickoff.
That's just the kickoff.
The rest of the week is planned with events that are broken down. We have something different on each day of the week. So the department has 13 areas across the state that we supervise. So in each area, we are going to have an event every day. We'll have an employment day, we'll have a mental health day, we'll have a resource day, and a legal aid day. So every day of the week, there'll be something different. We will post those on the website. This is what's going on in Arkansas tomorrow. So anywhere in that area, if you're in need of services, we'll have the events posted on there. You're free to come, whether or not you're on probation, parole, if you're just in the community and you need to stop by or you want to help. We need mentors. We need volunteers. If you want to get involved with the Department of Corrections in field services and work with these individuals, walk alongside them, then we would love to have you.
Oh, that's going to be so awesome. And I will definitely be there Monday, because I get to talk a little bit.
You are our featured speaker.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. So I love to talk, period. If you can't tell, that's how I got the show. But I really love to talk about reentry. The only thing I love more than talking about God and what He's done in my life is recovery and reentry, right? Like that's where my testimony is. That's where it's at for me. That's the proof in the pudding. This was what I went through all this for, was to encourage other people. I know it sucks. It's going to be times when you can't get a job. It's not easy, and we don't deserve to have it easy. We have successfully proved why we shouldn't be trusted, you know. And so, but when they hear it from one of their own, we hear it different. We just hear it different. And so I am stoked. Like, I can't wait for Monday. Like, I want to go to sleep tonight and wake up Monday.
Monday's going to be exciting.
It's going to be fun. I'm coming early, too. I'm going to come pester you all day.
We'll be there at 8 o'clock getting it ready.
So will we. Yeah, it's going to be great.
No, it will. It'll be exciting. So I hope we have a great turnout. Come out and join us, and then we'll have a few vendors that are community service providers that are going to be there. Goodwill's going to be there. We're going to have an individual representing child support's going to be there, which we've come a long way with child support and the driver's license. So I have to give a shout out to them, and Goodwill is always very supportive, and we'll have all of our agencies listed that are going to participate with us. That week, we will give a big, huge thank you to all of them. And they were reaching out to us. We were kind of worried because of COVID if we could even do reentry this year.
Yeah.
But we've had the service providers reach out to us and say, are y'all doing reentry?
Yeah.
So it's a buzzword that kind of started in 13, but
Yeah.
it's always been something that we should be doing as an agency,
Yeah,
and we
for
should
sure.
be doing as a community.
Sure.
Identifying barriers in our community. If you've got a high-risk area in your city or your community, don't just tell people that come into the city you don't want to go to this street. That's a high crime, high drug area. Move into that area. Put resources in there.
Yeah.
Start to show people that there's more to it than what goes on there, and you will reach an individual regardless. I took a Bridges Out of Poverty class, Transition to Success.
Yeah.
One of the best classes I've ever taken to compare generational to situational poverty, but also incarceration. You have two directives there that a generational, in my career, I have seen several family members go through the system over and over and over. So when an individual comes out, they want to go home, then we try to get them to do different, and they don't know how to be different because the family's all they have. So they don't know how to be different. And if they're going to be different, then the family's going to disown them. So how do you work with or supervise an individual who comes from generational incarceration? They're totally different to help change their mindset than someone who is situational, which wrong place, wrong time. They know what their trigger is, and it's a situation they can stay away from. So they're probably going to be more successful. So you wouldn't want to actually apply service to someone at that level so much as you would a generational. How do you break that gap?
Yeah.
How do you take that stigma off? I'm not better than my family. I just want to be different.
Yeah.
So those two things, and taking that where they had the parole office was in probably one of the highest crime, highest drug areas, but they had the most attendance for groups because people could walk there. They had access to services because they didn't have to try to get across town in a rural community where there was no transportation. So you brought the services to that high risk, high crime area, drug treatment, whatever it took. Put the peers in there, do the rallies in there.
Yeah, do it all.
So we got to identify that.
That is amazing. And yeah, that's good. That's good. And you've got, what is this over here, Carrie? What we got?
We have participated for the last 4 years in the Drug Take Back, which is Saturday, April 24th.
That's my wheelhouse right there.
That's your wheelhouse right there.
ARTakeback.org.
Yes, we will have it at the Community Correction Center by War Memorial. We will have a Drug Take Back box there on Saturday from 10 to 2.
Okay, so
bring your
AC,
prescription drugs, get rid of them, we'll take anything.
Yeah, so reentry, you guys are just stepping up in every area.
We are trying. Get our feet out there.
So
get the word out.
That is awesome to see reentry, the Department of Corrections, the community corrections, being a part of this is Arkansas's biggest initiative for drug prevention. And so if you don't know, most addiction with prescription pills start with unmonitored medication being left out. As a person in recovery, I can testify to the amount of times I've stole medicine out of somebody's cabinet. So I know it's a terrible thing and I probably shouldn't be so transparent, but the truth is the truth, right? And so when we do this, we are offering potential people of addiction that have yet to take that first pill, we're offering a decreased likelihood of that. And so that's great. And so, yeah, you guys are all over the place, Carrie.
We have a busy week. Hopefully that the rally is just a kickoff for what's to come. That's the layout for the week.
The agenda.
The agenda for the week.
Okay, so we want to look at this agenda?
Sure.
Okay, so Tuesday April 27th, you guys are having Legal Day, Law-Abiding Citizen Day. That's me. Vital records, court representatives, legal fees paid. What is this, Carrie?
This is how the week is going to be laid out. In each area, we'll have representatives from most of these organizations that'll come there and assist people with any legal questions. And then just like on Wednesday, it's a health resource day, and this is just the different entities that we'll have participating.
So what we'll do is we'll take a picture of this and we'll have it posted on our page with all the information at the end of the show, because we can't really dive into all this, but you guys are going to need to know this information. This is solid and great opportunities. Let's get back to what was we talking about over here, Carrie? We talking about the Governor's Summit and incarceration and supervision. We got a bunch going on in 45 minutes.
We have a lot going on in 45 minutes, and I thought it was going to take a while, but I can talk about reentry, with your passion, and that's what I do is I talk about it because I believe in it. The Governor's Summit in 2015 was my first speaking engagement.
Okay.
I got my job in March, and I told that I was going to be speaking in front of this faith summit. This 500 people that were invited to this summit from the faith community.
Okay.
How to get them involved, because that is one of our weaknesses. We don't have enough individuals, we don't have enough churches that are stepping up to do more than maybe a clothes closet or a food bank. We need churches who come along, and if you're not driving your van on Sundays or Wednesdays, maybe on Tuesdays and Thursdays you would have a retiree from the community or from your church that would want to drive that van to pick people up, take them to the DMV, take them to a job.
That's good.
So we need the faith community because they have that loving heart.
Well, they should.
They have accountability.
They should. My fight, and I'm a recovery pastor at that church, and we're considered a mega church. You know what I mean? And so one of my fights is with the faith-based community, especially if you're a Christ-centered community. And that stigma's there, though, right? Like, I don't want them, I've seen it in churches where somebody will pick up their purse and scoot to the other end of the aisle. You know what I mean? Because the guy down here has face tattoos. And that's not cool. Shame on you. It's not cool.
It's not cool.
And so to see you guys trying to build up leadership in that community, that's refreshing to me, too.
We've really tried to reach out to them, to mentors who, just various things that they could do for that. So we do need, if you're listening, we do need the faith community to come along beside us and give us some guidance. We can learn as well how we're doing things or if we're not doing things right. So my son is a preacher, so I was blessed at that. I think that's why God blessed me with him 35 years ago.
Yeah,
but,
he keeps you in line.
Poor little guy. Yeah, well, he tries. He doesn't preach to his mama, but he does street ministry, and that's his goal, is to find the homeless, to do God's work in the streets. And that's his passion.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Richard Short.
So I will remember your name, Richard, and maybe I will meet you in passing. That is pretty awesome.
Maybe you will. He doesn't do social media, so he just drives around and finds those who need a blessing, and he gets blessed for it.
Them. Yeah, that's good stuff, Carrie.
So the summit, we kicked off that. We talked about reentry, and since then, we've had several things come about. Restore Hope was engaged after that. We worked real close with them and the 100 Families Initiative. They've been a big partner. It's not been easy. Anytime you start a program, Jimmy, as you know, to get people to buy into it is one of the hardest things you could ever do. To get people to understand, I don't want that in my neighborhood. I don't need that house in my neighborhood. I don't want those people in my neighborhood. But folks who are watching out there, to tell you, we've got probably more than 80,000 offenders in the state of Arkansas, whether they're incarcerated or they're on supervision.
It's a lot.
And 90% of those individuals who are incarcerated are coming home. They may come back to their community, they may go to another community, but regardless of where they go, they could be your neighbor.
Yeah, they're coming home, one way or another.
That's exactly right. Unless they got a life or death sentence, they're coming home. And we've even had some of our juvenile lifers who've had their sentence commuted, and we've put them through reentry, and they have just, we've done interviews with them. I think they've been on Robert Holt's TV show. So we've been blessed with individuals who have maybe never saw getting out of prison as an option, have come out of prison and been successful. So we're really excited about that. You can tell.
Good stuff. That is good.
Of the 21 committees I talked to you about with Act 1190, we have 7 that we still keep going. That's volunteers, mentors, employment, community resources, education, mental health, substance use, and identification. We've kept those 7 committees together. We meet quarterly with the chairs and bring about what issues that they see in their community or they hear from their professionals as well, and they bring it back to the table, and then the next time we meet, we talk about how we overcome that. How did we find a solution to whatever barrier you had identified?
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. Reentry coaches, we train those.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what exactly is that?
Well, we train them to work with the individuals in the reentry facilities. It's a volunteer, it's a mentor, it's a reentry coach, but if they want to specifically work with someone that is in the reentry program, we train them as a reentry coach. We educate them on what the reentry program is, the games offenders play, as far as what they're going to try to push you to get away with and what they can and can't do in the program. As well as we have to educate the employers, because they can't smoke, they can't have cell phones, so there's a lot of restrictions that maybe just a volunteer wouldn't realize that they couldn't do as folks in reentry. So there's a little bit of special training for that, but we need plenty of those. We need a lot of those. We have 180 individuals in the reentry program right now. So we're working to fill our beds. COVID kind of hit us hard. When a facility would become infected, we couldn't take anybody out. And we're still doing some quarantine when we bring them out. So it's getting better. It's getting better. We're on the up. So
are they, do they get vaccinated?
I think it's optional. It has been provided, the opportunity has been provided to everybody that wants it. As well as staff. I mean, I think we have as many staff that don't want it, maybe as the inmates don't want it, but the opportunity is there.
Okay.
Like I said, volunteers, mentors, we need those. Good Grid Protect Solutions gave us Good Grid, which is a reentry portal. If you've never heard of it, you can go to goodgrid.com. Give a little shout out for Good Grid, but they have layered and layered several things into this program that is made it a one-stop reentry portal. So what they did was identify that everybody going to these individual agencies had a barrier. They had to tell their story, Social Security office, then they'd have to leave and go tell their story at DHS, and then they have to go tell their story somewhere else and looking for jobs. Well, Protect come up with a Good Grid that any second chance employer that wants to be on there can put their opportunities on there, and every inmate has an account on Good Grid. Everybody on supervision has an account on Good Grid, and they can go in, update their resume, search for second chance employers that have put themselves on Good Grid, apply straight through their email. Employers can reach out, scan through resumes. So it's just amazing. And we use it for our transitional housing too. It has made a world of difference in individuals going to transitional housing, which, like I told you earlier, we have 22 of those, and those are for individuals who've made parole but have burnt all their bridges. They may be a year in prison past the date that they made parole and have nowhere to go. So Arkansas has 22 of these. We do pay for 90 days for an individual to live in the transitional house. They're required to get a job. They have to do 5 hours of programming a week. We like for the facilities to get them a sponsor before they go home, but ultimately in that 90 days, we all know that's not enough time. Some people end up staying at the facility as a residence. But for those who can't and just need a little bit of slower time to get money and get back on their feet, then the transitional houses, we work through them too. So, but we automated our transitional housing application. And I'm not sure that we even have a backup other than level 3 and 4 sex offenders, and that's simply because we don't have housing. So an individual applies for 3 houses. When they come time for release, they're marked ready for release. One of the beds that they picked, if it's available, the house picks them, they take them, and within 24 to 48 hours, if there's no barriers, then they get to go to the house. So it has changed everything from snail mail and made it a lot quicker.
Sounds like it.
It's awesome.
Well, listen, Carrie, we like to take the last 2 or 3 minutes to give to the guest to say whatever you want to say. It is yours. Run with it.
Oh my goodness, now he's going to put me on the spot. I will talk about Reentry Week. Like I said, this is our 4th year to do this. This is just it's called the Great Comeback. That's what we wanted to call it in 2021, and we have set and kind of daydreamed about what it would look like. But not only do we want this to be a big push for reentry, for those individuals, but we want it to happen all year long. We want people to step up beside the Department of Corrections, Division of Community Correction, wherever you want to get in and fit in, that you can help out with these individuals. We hope that something during this week touches your heart, touches your life to where you want to give back and you want to be a part of it. We have We have a reentry email address. It's reentry@arkansas.gov. If you need to reach out to any of my team, we check that every day. Any questions about the reentry program, or if you have a service that you can provide, and we can put you in touch with the resources that you need, or we'll help you ourselves. We check that daily, so that's a very good thing. And I do believe we have been given a hashtag for Reentry Week. So if you are at one of these events, or if you're at the rally, hashtag AR, capital AR, Reentry. Take pictures, tag us. We can steal your stuff to put on our Facebook page, because we really want to showcase the state and the efforts that we're doing. So if you've got a community that you would like to put a coalition together, or you would like to have, we'd be more than happy to come help. We're going to kick off Reentry on the road again, so we may be coming to see you.
That is amazing. Dig that hashtag. We will get that up here in just a little bit. Thank you so much, Carrie, for coming, and thank you for your service to Arkansas. Thank you to your service toward the inmate population, and for those who are no longer incarcerated but have re-entered society. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And we will see you guys next Wednesday at 11 a.m.